The death spiral of having sad, old, depressed men run their lines who don't care about the job, don't care about the characters, don't care about the legacy, are just running out the clock on tired careers, just waiting to die. Those are the people that you have in charge of your franchises that despise your customer base and drive them away at every opportunity and insult them and call them names. And then you expect that you're going to make enough money for artists to get paid decent. There needs to be a revolution against Marvel.
Everybody is talking about artist pay within comic books. Dustin Nguyen lit a fire underneath the comic book industry. Everybody coming out, airing Marvel's dirty laundry and how much people aren't making these days. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about what Rob Liefeld has to say about it and some expose regarding how much pencilers are actually making at Marvel and DC. Aaron, you used to be the editor for the Boom Kids line, so you've oversaw an entire line of comic books. You've had to go out there with page rates and hire artists and stuff like this. And I am absolutely shocked at how low these page rates are that are being reported.
And they're lower than the page rates when I was hiring people, even at Boom, which is shocking. And I know that the page rates at Boom got far worse once I was gone. I heard that there were some people that were getting paid like $25 a page for art. Granted, it was like on Adventure Time and things like that. It was like, oh, you get 25 for pencils, 25 for inks, and we'll give you, 25 if you do the colors as well. That's what I was hearing. So like 75 a page for full production, except for the lettering. I'm not shocked to hear this from Marvel. They don't give, they don't pay royalties as well as DC. They don't pay overseas royalties. They are owned by Disney, which, I could have told you, knowing the Disney system, knowing how they produce comics, you are just lucky to be working for the greater glory of Disney and putting that on your resume. And you get nothing after that. You get whatever the page rate is that the licensor's paying you, and then there's nothing that you get. They own everything. So it's not shocking to me that Marvel under Disney is the one of the worst companies to work for as an artist.
Bleeding Cool were reliably informed that Big Two pencilers starting rates are around $160 a page, with maybe a little bump on the Batman books or Spider-Man, X-Men books. Artists are expected to do 1 page per day or 20 pages a month. That's $3,200 a month. A year, that's $38,400. In New York, the minimum wage is $17 an hour, 40 hours per week. That's $35,360 a year. So essentially, they are making minimum wage if you lived in New York.
Absolutely. And if you lived in California, which is why you have C.B. Cebulski in charge, a guy who is famous for loving going to other countries and eating their cuisine on Marvel's dime while he finds cheap artists to undercut American artists.
160 a page does feel unreal. I know people that do indie comic books as a hobby that pay more than that.
Yeah. And you would do better crowdfunding your own book for a lot of these people. Can you imagine, and then you get a bump maybe you get a bump for the X books. Why would you give a bump to work on NYX? That book's not going to sell. It's not like the X books, it's like Spider-Man maybe, but like the X books, nah.
In America, you can't live on $38,400 a year.
No, not comfortably, not well. Anything goes wrong and you're screwed. Your car breaks down, you're screwed.
Yeah, because you're not going to get medical, you're not going to get any benefits or anything like this. You're just a freelance employee.
Mm-hmm. And that's why they have to depend on GoFundMes. That's why they have to put up these things and say, please help. And it's always funny when you see the ones who hate all of the customers and then they put up a GoFundMe, please help. It's like, you maybe don't want to cut off your nose to spite your face.
Well, it might be time for Marvel to start putting some money into these books. I mean, the sales are going down. The audience is dissipating. They're having to up the price of the comic books, yet sales are stagnant despite their comic book prices rising, which means there's less issues being sold. And I think a big part of that is that a lot of times the art sucks.
I'm excited that Marvel's rates are going so low for one reason and one reason only, and that's because I now have a shot at eventually stealing away Netho Diaz to work on independent books because he'd be getting so little working on the Marvel X books. And that poor guy having to draw those plots, having to draw those stories. Ooh, he's way better than that. But I kid. It's like the artist shouldn't be paid this low. But that's the way it is. That's the way it is in corporate comics. They don't care about you. They care about the bottom line. And the bottom line is getting worse because they don't care enough about the bottom line. People like Tom Brevoort, they don't care enough to give the fans what they want. They would rather sit there and they would rather insult them and call them cretins for requesting things that they want. They would rather go out there and get to talk trash on the customer instead of trying to sell books, which would raise the amount of money that Marvel was making, which would allow them to pay better page rates, get better artists. Better artists in turn mean more people buying the book, means more money, but instead they've chosen the death spiral of having sad, old, depressed men run their lines who don't care about the job, don't care about the characters, don't care about the legacy, are just running out the clock on tired careers, just waiting to die. Those are the people that you have in charge of your franchises that despise your customer base and drive them away at every opportunity and insult them and call them names. And then you expect that you're going to make enough money for artists to get paid decent. There needs to be a revolution against Marvel. I took Rob's tweet, I retweeted it, and I said, you should be starving Marvel of your talent until they pay a living wage.
Bleeding Cool then elaborated on it, saying that there's other ways that they can make money. A junior Big Two penciler can add another $15,000 to $20,000 onto their salary by selling the original artwork generated and returned in that year, putting them closer to $55,000. If you're working digitally, however, you don't have that option, but you can work faster and ink your work as well. However, the original art market is also why the majority of Big Two artists are still creating original art rather than switching to digital. And it's another reason that Tom Brevoort and some of these other people at Marvel think that they can undercut the artists. We're like, oh, but you get to sell the original artwork. It's like, yeah, well, no shit, Sherlock. It's my fucking artwork. Of course I can sell my art. Mm-hmm. Why do you get a fucking break because I get to sell my own art?
Or you could just draw the characters and put out prints and sell that and, and probably do a nice little piece of business. And then, go to cons and sell original art that you do either at the table or that you have on your table that people can buy in your portfolio. Granted, it wasn't printed in a Marvel comic, but that's how they're going to take advantage of you. And how big is the market if you're on a book like, and I keep going back and bashing NYX, but that book is freaking awful. Who wants that original art? What are you going to be able to sell that for? There's nothing on that page.
People like sitting around and talking.
Yeah, you're not doing anything exciting. Yeah, like, oh, look, I have a picture of Miss Marvel and Anal sitting in a coffee shop. That's an original page from a book that exists. Okay.
Anal, huh? I thought it was an all.
I don't think that's right.
An analyst and a therapist, the world's first analrapist.
Yes, and you're almost arrested for those business cards.
Just as an aside, I don't want to get too far afield here. But why do they always make the characters with the most mockable names the gay characters? Why do they always reveal that Asgardian? They had to change it to Wiccan because everybody immediately went, oh, Asgardian. Anal. D-Man. What the hell is wrong with you, Marvel?
But if you see a lot of artists, they're making the con scene, always traveling around the country. It's because they have to do that just to make ends meet, because what Marvel and DC even are really paying their artists isn't enough. So that's why they're always having to go out there and hustle their own work. They literally have to do that to pay the bills.
And again, we get back into the fact that there's no real incentive to create anything for Marvel. So overall, it hurts Marvel because there's nothing really new or interesting or innovative being done. There's just carbon copies of characters. You might as well go to the old school mimeograph machine and just run off a bunch more Spider-Men, because nobody is interested in coming in and creating anything original, giving them any new ideas. Why would you do that? So that you can get paid a pittance, and then they can use that to try and make a movie that maybe you get an invite to, but you're not allowed to go to the wrap party because Kevin Feige doesn't think you're cool enough. Kevin Feige doesn't think you're cool enough? That's a heavy diss, because everybody in the world is cooler than Kevin Feige.
Well, you mentioned Rob Liefeld there. This is what he said when he saw the article. You can do better than these pathetic rates by attending comic conventions with commissions. Many have chosen that route. My friends have chosen that route. Get cover assignments from smaller publishers and build your name in your artistic war chest. And that's why we have so many awesome artists that almost refuse to do interiors these days. You cannot get J. Scott Campbell to do an interior unless it's Spawn 300. Alex Ross almost doesn't do interiors unless he does his own book with another company with Fantastic Four, because literally it's not worth the effort. You can go out there and do commissions. You can go out there and do cover work and make a lot more money. And you don't have to be sitting there at the drawing board every single day without end for months at a time.
Yeah, ruining your shoulder, ruining your back, ruining your neck for nothing. And then at the end of the day, you don't have any medical, and you end up like poor Peter David, who is in the hospital, has no medical, has no Medicaid, and is in horrible shape after a lifetime of giving ideas and giving IP and having, best-selling runs with these companies. Now, granted, maybe he could have handled his finances better, but that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is the industry does not take care of you in any way. And that's why it drives me nuts when I see these people that have these loyalties, must defend billion-dollar corporation and draw out the long knives whenever you're critical of anything, whenever you're critical of corporate product. They come out and they're, all these progressives that are super, you can't insult this company, blah, blah, blah. You're this, you're that. It's like, remember when you guys were like anti-corporation and now you're falling over yourselves to defend the corporation? We're the ones telling you that they don't care about you. They're not looking out for you. That Pride special that they put out, it's not because they like you or because they even particularly believe in it. It's because they believe that that's the thing that they need to do to win your dollars. They just want the money out of your wallet.
Well, they're not doing a good job of it because they're not spending on the art. And the art is the most important part of a comic book. It's the foundational element. It's visual storytelling. Without great visual storytelling, it's hard to have a good comic book. You can have a great story, but it might not be engaging if that art isn't there. You can have a visually engaging comic book with a terrible story that you still want to read because the art is so good. And we are not getting that anymore, especially from Marvel. They are so much worse than DC, especially when it comes to artists. As many issues as I have with Jim Lee, and I've got plenty, the man still knows how to identify and hire artists. Marvel cannot do it. If you go and look at what Dustin had to say, and everybody that chimed in, there are tons of people that just refuse to work with the company anymore.
And I think that's a good thing. I think that, of course, what's going to happen is CB is just going to take another trip and go get some bow buns and find some cheap artists to replace you with. But ultimately, Marvel's, we said it many times, I said it here today, Marvel's in a death spiral. There's no way that they can really pull up. They don't really have the will to pull up because they don't have the leadership that wants to do it. And they're just going to keep depending on the same variant cover schemes and the same relaunches and with the same creative teams and the same giving you the same trash, the same things that the retailers keep falling for. They're falling for it less and less, but they keep falling for it. They keep doing it. And until there's actually a retailer rebellion, an art rebellion is good, but until there's a retailer rebellion, nothing is really going to change. There has to be more monumental shakeups within the industry to force the change that everybody wants.
Do appreciate your perspective on this, Aaron, being a longtime editor, somebody that managed the entire line of books, having to hire artists out there. You would think that these problems wouldn't be prevalent at Marvel Comics. They absolutely are. If you like the entire conversation and everything else going on with the Geek Fix, I do invite you to come over to Think Critical Patreon. There's a link in the video description. Go check it out there because we got a lot more to talk about, including wrestling. We got movie news. We got some more comic book news and lots of toy talk coming.